Bismillahirrahmanirrahim ji. Today it's our third session ji on what? Language development in preschool. Previously in previous two sessions we talked about language development as a second language development ji. Clear? We were not talking here about what she mother tongue, clear, or native tongue. We are talking about what? Second language. And when we say second language, we talked about two very important things along with language development. What were those two? Development of culture and development of thinking. The language also gives way to what? Development of culture. Clear? Culture means that a mindset, a set of habits, routines, surroundings, actions, reactions, movements. Clear? That how to deal with own self, how to deal with others, how to deal with inner situations, how to deal with outer circumstances. Clear? That all can be called a culture. Culture is a huge word here. I'm not worth defining it. It's not possible for me to go for the exact boundaries of culture. In simple words, you can say that the development of mindset of a child. Clear? And in simple words, what sort of mindset we need? That is what a positive mindset, a cooperative mindset, a sociable mindset. Clear? The mindset with flexibility. Then we talked about what thinking, that usually it is considered that it is some sort of inborn quality. No, not at all. That is also effort based. Sorry. Thinking can also be developed. Clear? It can be called a skill. Clear? Through certain activities, mind can be engaged, mind can be involved. Clear? In certain process of thinking. That an idle mind can never be there. Clear? With at least critical thinking or higher order thinking. It can be there with thinking, and sometimes it can be there with overthinking, but I'm concerned here specifically with what critical thinking, higher order thinking, or analytical thinking. That sort of thinking that leads to certain progress, the sort of thinking that leads to certain productive outcome. Clear? And when we talk about preschool, or when we talk about school, or when we talk about education, we are concerned with what certain outcome. And what is that outcome? The usefulness of that child. Clear? We are basically working on human brains to make them useful for their society, useful for at first themselves, then useful for their surrounding people. So thinking in that term. Clear? If a child is kept there, clear, idle, and usually it is observed that in teaching process where a teacher or where the directress is active all the time and child is passive, can you expect certain thinking from the child? Not at all. It's not possible. So we are supposed to go for certain activities, clear, or we are supposed to create certain environment. We are supposed to go for certain process in which we can get that child involved for peculiarly the thinking process. Clear? So that mind could be there with certain questions, with certain queries. Clear? With certain investigative approach, with certain searching approach, which would enable that child in future as a researcher mind, as an exploring mind. Clear? Who would be there with certain approach towards learning new horizons, clear, and learning new fields. So that's why we discussed in very much detail that language is not just language. Clear? From that, though apparently it's a very low level, considering age, not importance. Clear? When I'm saying low, I'm not at all talking about low as an important. Clear? It's less important. No, I'm not at all saying so. I mean what she low in terms of age. At that age, when we are getting that child involved, busy, clear, in thinking process through language development. Clear? I'm emphatically repeating, in thinking process, what? Through language development. So language development already there. The task is already there. I'm supposed to go for it. But along with that, if I'm also getting that child engaged in those activities which could lead that child to certain questions, small questions according to his age, would be useful, would be fruitful. Then we talked about three phases of language development. In first phase, we said we work on what graphemes and phonemes, where I mean what the sounds and letter of a language, whatever second language you are working on. It could be their English, it could be their Arabic, it could be their Persian, it could be their French, or whatever second language you are working on. At first, we take a start with what sounds and letters of that language. Along with that, enrichment of vocabulary in terms of specifically nouns, naming objects. And then in second phase, we move ahead. We go for what along with sound and letters, we go along with vocabulary of noun, we go for what vocabulary of verb and word formation. Clear? From now letters, the child moves to what the formation of words. The child starts making small words, joining those different sounds or joining those different letters. Am I clear? This was what phase 2, where we used what word frames. Word frames. Then in third phase, we talked about what sentence making, where the child combines the vocabulary of noun with the vocabulary of verbs to make what different utterances or different sentences. And we use what sentence frames for this, for sentence formation, or we can also call them structural frames. We discussed in very much detail in previous session. And secondly, we worked upon one more skill, that was what comprehension, where the child starts getting what the meaning of those sentences. On one hand, he is getting the meaning of those sentences. On the other hand, he is making or forming those meaningful sentences. So it is there in two ways. Clear? One is what comprehending, receiving something, clear, with certain meanings. On the other hand, producing something which is what meaningful in terms of what a sentence. Got it? And then we talked about here reading through what picture description and text. So moving ahead, we can say that we divide these two phases into what first one, the sound letter relation. Conclusively, I'm actually concluding now those three phases in terms of what that two stages of reading. When I'm saying peculiarly reading, as we know that when we talk about language development, it involves what reading, writing, speaking, listening, clear, comprehension. All those skills are there. But peculiarly, when I'm saying reading, we can divide it into two phases. As an overall language development, we talked about what? Three phases. That's a separate thing. Whatever we discussed previously, those three phases were there for overall language development in preschool. In what? Preschool. Make it clear that we are concerned with preschool here. That was phase 1 regarding age 3, junior Montessori. Phase 2, age 4, senior Montessori. And phase 3, age 5, advanced Montessori. What do we do in those 3 years? How do we develop the language in those 3 years? At first, we talked about those 3 phases as an overall development of language in preschool. Here, specifically, I am talking about what? 2 phases of reading. Now I am separating reading from overall language. Now we'll be dealing with all the segments one by one. Reading, writing, Got it? At first we discussed generally. Now be specific. In reading, ji, first phase is there what, ji? That the child learns what? The mechanism of sounds. And what are those sounds, ji? Sounds of a language. And relation of those sounds with certain letters. And what are those letters? Basically, those letters are symbols of a certain language. Every language is there with its own sounds. You must have experienced it. Whenever you are listening to some foreigner language which is not known to you, don't you think that that language just seems to you a combination of a juxtaposition of sounds, different sounds? Can you comprehend those sounds? No. Can you understand those sounds? Can you give meanings to those sounds? No, because that language is what? A foreign language for you. For example, Chinese, Japanese. Clear? If you don't know that language. Am I clear, ji? So similarly, when we talk about second language for a child, initially those sounds are there unknown to him. He is not familiar with those sounds. We develop what, ji? A relation between certain sounds and letters of that language. That is the first task. And how do we do it? Basically, we take a start in what? Oral form. That is oral development. The child listens to that all the time. Then gradually, from oral development to that exact reading phase comes. When you are showing the letter of A using some flashcard or on LED or through some video, that written letter somewhere, that written shape, grapheme of letter A, and on the other hand you are also pronouncing that sound. The child relates that sound with that letter. So this is the first phase of reading. When I am holding a flashcard of A and I am uttering the sound A. A is the sound, A is the phoneme, and A is the letter. Here there comes a language barrier, specifically of English language. It can be there in other languages, but specifically English has this barrier, this problem. What is this problem, ji? That in English language, letters are there with multiple sounds. For example, when we say vowel, letters are 5, but sounds are 20. And among those 20, 12 are pure vowel sounds and 8 are diphthongs, combination of two vowel sounds. For example, ear, oor, ear. So now what to do with that? Nothing, ji. We are not supposed to go for these complexities. Being a directress of preschool, when you are supposed to go for first phase of reading, where I am talking about letters and sounds, clear? I am not at all supposed to go for this variety. We generally just use that general sound, general prevailing sound of that letter, ji. Whatever sound is mostly used. As usually we say what, ji? A. The letter A with sound A. I am showing the letter A and I am uttering the sound A. Does the letter A only have a sound? No. For example, in man, it is there with some different sound. And in ball, the same letter A is there with a different sound. And in patriot, the same letter A is with some totally different sound. So I'm not supposed to go for this variety, specifically in the beginning phase, because this is a second language for that child. So here comes a question that how will that child learn all the variants of different letters, all the variants of different sounds? The simple answer is that with exposure. The more child is exposed to vocabulary, new words, the more child learns these variants. It's a sort of automatic process. It needs not deliberate effort. Clear? Whatever word bank is coming on, whatever new words are coming, clear, those would be there with their own sounds. And with the passage of time, the child automatically develops what those different sounds, those multiple sounds. Because as according to basic principles of Montessori, the child learns what naturally. It's a natural process. We are supposed to develop ideas, we are supposed to develop language, we are supposed to develop values, numerals, or whatever we are dealing with in preschool. Concepts. These must be developed in a natural environment, in a natural way. It must not be in a didactic way. It must not be in a teaching way. We are not at all teaching here. We are dealing with different things. And the child is learning naturally as per principles of Montessori. Principles of Montessori methodology. Have you got my answer, Am I clear? That the problem occurs there. Agreed? Problem of what, different sounds. The simple answer is what, the child will develop those different sounds naturally. Through what? Vocabulary. Through word bank. Am I clear, Then, in the same first phase, when you have developed that relation between letter and a sound, we go for what, word formation, in reading. In first phase, the child reads what? Letters. Through what? Sounds. Secondly, he is able to read what? Words. Once again through what? Joining sounds with letters. Linking sounds with letters. Because whatever word is written there, whatever word is there in front of that child in written form, that contains what? Letters. And every letter is there with certain sound. And when the sounds are well developed, make it very clear. Because previously we had been dealing with this in conventional schooling or in traditional schooling, we had been trying to do it through what? Letters. We had been trying to make the child read something through letters. and that seemed apparently bit difficult. That was there with certain problems. And if you are doing the same through what you using sounds, phonic reading, it seemed what you comparatively easier. It is much better. It is there with more efficacy. It is there with better results. The child starts reading words through phones in shorter time. Am I clear, Ji? Are you getting my point? I'm differentiating two, Ji. Clear? First one is what, Ji? Reading through letters. I'm saying what, Ji? That we should not go for reading through letters. We should go for what, Ji? Reading through sounds. I can also give you an example of what, Ji? For example, Arabic, Ji. You all must have gone through that. Obviously, that qaida. Clear? How did we take a start? That alif zabar lam, al, ha zabar mim, ham, dal pesh, du. This is what, Ji? Letter reading. This is what? Letter reading. Clear? Now, what is phonic reading, Ji? A, l, a, l. Clear? I've faced bit difficulty with this sound from the very beginning. I simply call it alhamdu. Got my point, Ji? Clear? Do. A, l, a, l, do. This is what, Ji? Phonic. It will be useful. Why? Whenever the child is getting certain letters in front of him, he will automatically join all these sounds to make a word. Clear? Without any guidance, Ji. Previously it was there, Ji. How? For example, Ji, A, double P, L, E. Got it, Ji? Apple. Clear? That is what this is called what? Traditional reading. This is what? Traditional reading. A, double P, L, E. Apple. Got my point? But sometime when the child fails to perceive that sound in a connection with certain letter, he fails to read. Got my point? And when the sounds are developed, Ji, and how are the sounds developed, Ji? For example, a, p, l. Clear? The final ending E is what, Ji? Silent. Whenever there comes a vowel before it, Ji. Got my point? That in English words, when there is what, Ji? Final ending E, and there is some vowel before that, Ji, we don't pronounce it, Ji. Clear? But we need not to go for such details to that child, Ji. Simply we'll call it what, Ji? This final A sound is what, Ji? Silent. Apple. A, p, l, apple. Clear? K, a, t. Cat. Instead of what, Ji? C, a, t. Instead of C, a, t, we'll go for what, Ji? K, a, t. Got my point? Here, look at this variant is there. K sound is through C sometime, and K sound is sometime through K. Clear? Once again the same question, Ji. How will you deal with that? Simply, Ji, by exposure. By exposure. Clear? When the child is given more exposure, Ji. Clear? More exposure to word bank, Ji. New words, vocabulary, which we simply call what, Ji? Vocabulary. The child will automatically learn it, Ji. The child will differentiate, Ji. Got it? That sometime K sound is through what? C, and sometime K sound is through what? K. Am I clear, Ji? So this was first phase, Ji. In first phase, I'm shortly repeating it, Ji, that letter sound relation, then After learning those letters and sound, reading of what? Words. Then in second phase, the child moves to what? Total reading. The child moves to what? I am emphatically saying what? Total reading. When I am saying total reading, it means comprehension. Reading with comprehension. It's not just reading for the sake of reading. It's reading with understanding. Traditionally, conventionally, the word recitation is used to recite. Not at all. That's a wrong word. That's a wrong idea. Wrong conception. Where the child is reading something without understanding it. That is wrong. The child develops a habit of reading without understanding the things. And this habit cannot be removed easily later on. It becomes a problem, a permanent problem. So from the very beginning, and what is that beginning? Which phase we go for it? We can go for it from the second half of senior Montessori, or at least from what? Advanced Montessori. From where? Advanced Montessori. When the child is aging what? 5. Because he has already developed what? Sound letter relation. Then from that sound letter relation, what? Word reading. Now he is going for what? When he can read the words. I'm saying what? He can read the words. When he can read the words, now I'll go for what? That reading with understanding, which we discussed in part 2 in very much detail. We went for an exercise there. That how by raising certain questions on what? Nouns and verbs. Whenever I'm raising certain questions regarding some objects, something, it is developing what? Peculiarly, what? Comprehension skill. Clear? For example, some action is going on. Clear? The boy is driving a car. For example, the sentence is, the boy is driving a car. Clear? I'm already admitting that the child can read now. Clear? He will join the sound the. Clear? B, oi. Clear? S, d, r, r, wing. Got my point? A car. He is driving a car. Now, when I'm raising a question that who is driving? Clear? The boy. The boy is driving what? A car. Clear? This is developing what? Comprehension skill. This is developing what? Comprehension skill. In part 2 we discussed in very much detail. And what was the second frame? When we raise a question on what? Verb. The boy is driving. Now, the boy was driving yesterday, or the boy will be driving tomorrow. Got it? This develops peculiarly, clear, specifically, exactly what? Language. Clear? And in language, not only reading, clear, but also what? Writing. It serves both the skills, reading and writing. Though at the moment we are talking about what? Reading. But automatically it develops what? Writing ability. Got the point? Now there are further different activities for reading. You can see all these on screen. First one is what? Phonetic object box. Phonetic object box. You can place different objects. If objects are not available, clear, you can what? Use flashcards, printouts. And sometimes even resources are not available. At least you can use whiteboard to make a list of different objects having similar sounds. Having similar sounds. For example, ji, bat, cat, mat, fat, hat. Got it, ji? Here you are basically working with what, ji? Different phones, similar phones. And do mention here, ji, specifically it could be their initials phones, it could be their middle phones, middle sounds, or it could be their what, ji? Ending sounds. For example, if I am saying, ji, man, pan, van, I'm going for both similar middle and ending sound. What is similar middle sound? A. And what is similar ending sound? N sound. Man, pan, van. Got it, ji? So when the child practices these similar sounds, later on, when some unseen word is there, clear, he can go for the reading of that even unseen, clear, on his own. On his own. This was what, chi? Phonic object box or phonetic object box. Simply call it phonic object box or sound box. You can name it what? Sound box. Box doesn't mean that you need all the time boxy. I'm saying that it depends upon your resources. You can write it on your whiteboard, different words, and make them say these words. Make them practice these words. Secondly, ji, labeling surrounding objects. Ji. Labeling surrounding objects. It could be there on worksheets, it could be there on notebooks, it could be there on whiteboard one by one. That each child is supposed to go for what, chi? Give name of at least one surrounding object. Chi. Or if the child just knows the object and he doesn't know the word for that, teacher will pronounce that word. Do mention it clearly, ji. Sometimes children are there familiar with the objects, but they don't know the word used for that object in second language. The teacher will pronounce that word. Ji. For example, this object, whatever is holding this camera, clear? The child doesn't know the word for it. The teacher can pronounce what? Tripod, tripod stand. Am I clear, ji? Or at least stand. For example, ji, the window is there with shutter, ji. Clear? Instead of what? Curtain. Shutter is curtain, curtain is shutter. But shutter is a type of curtain. And the child is pointing towards that object. but he doesn't know how to say it. The directress will help him out by saying that word. Am I clear, ji? Got the point? This one is another activity, ji. Next, ji, writing different labels. Writing different labels. It could be there some picture, ji. It could be there some picture story, as we had previously, ji. For example, we use that one for reading. You can use the same one for what? Writing labels of different objects. For example, grass. The teacher is just saying the sound. Make it clear. Usually it happens that when we talk about this activity, you expect the children to go for this activity on their own. As a second language learner, it's not possible for them. You have to pronounce that word. You just utter those sounds from your mouth. Clear? And receiving those sounds, the child is supposed to write it down. For example, when I'm saying grass, I'm saying what? Grass. 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 Got it, she? Obviously, some of them will go for what, she? Wrong spellings. They're not a big deal. They are in a learning phase. Let them develop on their own. Got it? When I'm saying line, I'm just uttering what? Line. Clear? When I'm saying what? Rat. I'm just uttering the sound. They are supposed to what? Spell it. Or I'm saying mouse. 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 Trap. 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 Am I clear, ji? Clarify it, ji. If you are not. That you are not just supposed to give them the picture or whatever you want to label them and they will label it on their own. No. Clear? Some of the things they can. Some of the objects they can. But mostly you'll have to pronounce it. You are saying it orally. Am I clear, ji? They will label it, ji, on their own. They are receiving what? Sounds. Clear? Then they develop in their mind the relation of that sound with certain letter from where we took a start. Got my point? And they will start writing. So in this way, subsequently, they'll be able to go for what? Then from simple to complex words. From try to go for, to mention somewhere, in the initial phase, try to go for monosyllabic words. What sort of words or what sort of objects having what? Monosyllabic, containing one syllable. For example, that mat, cat, car, fast, bat. This is what? Monosyllabic. What is diasyllabic? Faster. Faster. Calling. Calling. Packing. writing. These are what ji? Diasyllabic. Try to contain ji. To what ji? Monosyllabic or diasyllabic. What is that trisyllabic ji? Beautiful. Beautiful. Chemistry. This is what ji? Trisyllabic. And usually trisyllabic or tetrasyllabic words are not suggested to be used specifically when you are going for certain such sort of activities. What is that tetrasyllabic ji? Containing what? 4 syllables. For example ji, intelligent. 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 How many syllables are there ji? 4. Avoid tetra or trisyllabic words or objects ji. Try to go for what? Monosyllabic or at least diasyllabic for such type of activities. Got it ji? Then ji, next one is what? Phonogram object box ji. Phonogram object box. This can also be called what ji? The same diasyllabic object words ji. As you can see on screen ji. Look at the words ji, having what? Double sounds. Jumper. Chestnut. Bowling. Batting. Calling. Standing. Searching. Got it? Here peculiarly you are going for what? Diasyllabic or double sound words. And double sound words can also be there in another form ji. In form of what ji? Diagraphs. Diagraphs. What are diagraphs ji? For example, ch, ch, j, sh sound. As in the regular course or in the coming slides, it would be there. In regular course, you must have come across that. Clear that diagraphs, having what she? Double sounds. Im, un, where we make the words using these diagraphs. Chair, change, chapel, chestnut, challenge. All these words have what initial? Ch sound. Then the j sound middle, for example, college, bridge, knowledge. Then the sh sound, for example, initial g, ship, shin, short, shell, shell of something, outer layer, nutshell. Got it, ji? Then ji, the sound ji. these, those, them, then, third sound ji, third sound, the difference between the and third sound, th. Thief, thief, I'm just giving you examples ji. Think, thorough, through, am I clear ji? This is called practice of what ji? Diagraphs, where we combine ji and make it clear ji. Thus diagraphs are fixed. These are what? Fixed. Just like that, in, unimportant ji, understand ji, uncontrollable, unbelievable, then ji another activity ji, that is what? Action words. And I'm repeatedly saying ji that all the time the directress is supposed to utter these words repeatedly. Children follow the teacher ji. Initially they won't be able to utter. But by repeated listening, they develop that sound. And they start reading, they start using that sound for reading on their own. Next activity, we said what ji? Action words ji. For example ji, you can show the cards, or you can write the actions on board, or you can at least utter those actions ji. And the child is supposed to act. Got it ji? For example, walking, jumping, sitting, standing, running, roaming, you'll go for a list of action words, and children are supposed to act on those action words ji. Then secondly, it could be there, guess the action game ji. Guess the action game. For example, you can make pairs ji. One child is acting and the other child is guessing that what is he doing ji. And once again ji, the directors would be there helping them out all the time. It is a guided task ji. Though liberty is there, though we will let them do on their own, but wherever you think that the child fails to go for something, your role must be what ji? Supportive. For example, if a child is acting something and the other child fails to guess ji, you can give that child clues. You'll try your level best ji to make him guess correctly. Then ji next one is classified booklets ji. Classified booklets ji. These are available in market ji printed. you can make on your own ji, or at least you can use LED ji. As you can integrate it with modern technology. Clear? And make one thing very clear ji, whatever we are discussing, these are samples. You can be there with your own innovation. Clear? This is not Holy Bible which can't be changed. Am I clear? Here I discuss with you people, clear, some of them ji. Clear? Just for an example, you can develop your own activities on your own using your own ideas. Clear? But objective must be clear ji. Objective must be achieved. Well defined, clear, well planned, clear, and then well acted upon to achieve the target. Activity could be there with variety. You can change that activity. Whatever I'm discussing now, it is not fixed. You can change it. For example, here I'm saying booklet chi. You can use LED chi. Clear? There you can gather what chi, different pictures related to a class. For example, what do I mean by class chi? For example, village life chi. The objects related to what? Village life. As you, ma'am, you are planning to go for that campus chi. What is that? City life. That all the objects you were collecting were what chi? Related to what? City life. That is what chi? Classified objects chi. For example, ji, another class ji, professions ji. Another class ji, birds ji. Another class ji, animals ji. Then subcategories of animals ji. Reptiles, land animals, marines. Then ji, another class ji, for example, relations ji. Family relations, paternal relations, maternal relations. But try to go for what? Real world. The world around the child. Never go for what? Some sort of artificial sort of vocabulary which is not linked with natural or real life of that child. Don't go for such sort of objects. Never. Am I clear ji? You will show the pictures and you will what? Pronounce. You will say the names of those pictures ji. And the child will write them down, label them down. With almost every activity, I am emphatically repeating this ji, that you will not just show the picture and you will not expect from the child to. That sometime, or even mostly, the children can say those words. Children know. But sometime, if they don't know the name of that object, you are supposed to what? Say it. Loudly, clearly, and even sometime with separated phones. With separated phones. As I said, what chi? Instead of curtain, I'm saying what chi? Shutter. Clear? Shutter. Got it chi? Curtain. Curtain. Got it chi? And the child will what? Spell it. Label it. On one hand, it is what? Reading. On the other hand, it is also what? Writing. Make it clear. And reading what chi? As I said in the previous session ji, in part 2 as well. Clear? What was that chi? That reading doesn't only mean that reading the written text all the time ji. There we talked about picture description as well ji. There we also talked about what? Listening ji. Listening is also a mode of what chi? A sort of reading. When the child is listening, it's like listening, like reading. In reading, the child uses what, chi? Visual sense or visual intelligence. And in listening, the child uses what, chi? Auditory intelligence. But he is receiving something. No? In visual, he is just receiving what? Symbols, graphemes. And in listening, he is receiving what, chi? Phonemes. Make this thing very clear, ji. A question could be there, ji. That we are saying that these are what? Reading exercises. These are what? Reading exercises. But on the other hand, I am saying what, chi? The child will write it, chi. The child will label it, chi. So you can say that here reading is in term of what? Listening. Here reading is in term of what? Sounds. When we took a start with reading, what did we say? That how will the child read? Through phones, through sounds, by combining sound with letter, by developing a relation between sound and letter, the child actually reads. So here I am not using letters, I am just using what? Sounds. I am giving child what? Sounds. The child is having what? Input of what? Sound. He will convert that sound into what? Letter. Am I clear, ji? So on one hand he is reading, on the other hand he is also writing. On one hand he is listening, on the other hand he is doing what? Writing. So these are inseparable, ji. Whenever we are saying reading, listening is also involved here, ji. Make it very clear. For whom? The one who is learning. The one who is learned, he can read without receiving sound. A question could be there, ji. I am repeatedly saying that. Somebody can ask you this question, that on one hand you are talking about reading, but here what sort of reading is there? Where you are just showing what, ji? A picture. So you can say number one, ji, he is reading what? A picture. Clear? And number two, he is actually receiving what? A sound. Clear? From that sound he is developing what? A relation between sound and letter. By joining that sound and letter he is making what? Word. Clear? So he is reading in terms of what? Listening, because he is learning. When he has learnt, clear, he doesn't need sounds anymore, ji. Then he can read it just using his visual intelligence. He won't be in need of auditory intelligence that time, ji. Am I clear, ji? Then, ji, secondly, it could be there, ji, in form of what? Geographical, geometrical, biological, scientific, or any other terms, ji. I may repeat: geographical, geometrical. Is it working? You can see there. Am I clear, ji? Whenever I am saying that geometrical, geographical, biological, scientific, clear, related to the surrounding of that child, make it clear. From natural world, from real world, from the world of that child, which is not out of his reach. Which he could find actually in his surrounding, or at least in his cartoons, in his movies, on TV. Am I clear? We are not supposed to go for here very complex sort of vocabulary. or superficial type of vocabulary. They are not adults, they are not grown-ups, they are children. Try to be there within their world, within their concerns, their interests. As if you could recall, one of the principles, what was that? Entice the child. And what could entice the child, the world around him, the real world around him. Usually it is observed that sometimes you people go for strange type of vocabulary which is not related to the life of that child. The child loses interest in that. For example, geographical, for example, mountains, oceans, lake, river, canal, pond, dunes, heights, geometrical, in terms of shapes, you know that square, round, angular or triangular. Then biological, his body, the physical objects around him, trees, animals. Simple concepts, simple vocabulary. Then scientific, as we take a start from small concepts, cold, mild and warm, rough and smooth, from simple, then gradual development, reasons, reasons of what, bigger and smaller, heavier and lighter, nearer and farther, or closer or farther, top or bottom, height, the concept of height, such type of scientific concepts, along with, make it clear, reasoning, which could give rise to what? Reasoning. Here, are you noticing one thing, which we mentioned in the very beginning, that language develops what, thinking. When I'm saying reasoning, when I'm talking about surrounding objects, obviously, it gives way to what? Certain questions. Clear questions in the minds of those children. And this is the process, this is the beginning of that process. When the child starts analyzing the bigger thing from smaller, or the heavier thing from lighter. Apparently for us, it's the lowest level, it's very simple. But for him, it's very interesting. It's something new. Because he has just taken a start with the exploration of the surrounding world. On one hand, you are developing language, but on the other hand, you are also working on his what? Thinking. Ability of thinking. The next one is what? Classified cards. Classified cards. Here we are just going for variety ji. Why? Because if you are repeating the same sort of activities now, the child gets bored. Mostly, are you observing that the similar sort of activities are there? Now all the time we are dealing with what? A word bank. Clear? We are dealing, as I said in the beginning ji, that vocabulary of noun and vocabulary of verbs. Clear? Are you noticing that? Almost all the activities containing what ji? Vocabulary now. But in different ways. We are here just trying to learn ji, that how to plan different activities. For example, ji, words for the environment ji, words for material ji, then classified card for oral activities ji. What sort of oral activity ji? Conversational statements ji, question and answers, as we did there in picture description ji. Got it? There we raise certain questions ji, or there we give way to discussion on that picture. Sometime you can use cards, clear, of different objects, and you can develop an environment of discussion on that object ji. For example ji, the cards of what? Pet animals ji, the cards of farm animals ji, the cards of what? Wild animals ji. I'm holding a card of some pet animal, some dog, some cat, some kitten, and I'm just taking a start with a simple question ji, that can somebody tell me, can somebody guess what is it? It's a cat. It's a cat. What do you think ji? Does it look a wild cat or a tamed cat or a pet cat? It is a pet cat. It is a tamed cat. In oral development, he is actually finding a synonym for pet. What is that? Tamed. That you can also go for such sort of discussion ji. Out of these animals ji, what do you think that which can be tamed and which cannot be tamed, which can be made a pet and which cannot be, and whatever cannot be made a pet, why? Are you getting a point? I'm moving from simple to complex. Simple is that what? Naming those objects. Then complex is that what? Raising questions on that. Then nomenclature cards. Of what? Once again oral activity. What is it? What do we call it? How do we use it? When do we use it? Nomenclature means what? Naming. It could be classified objects. Classified objects means the objects which are there with different classes, with different kinds, with different categories and subcategories. As I gave you the example, for example, animal ji. Then ji with subcategories what ji? Birds and land animals and marines ji, sea animals ji. Or in other words, what do we call this? What do we call this. This here means what? Different objects. A hammer, a nail. It could be their tools. As above, I said, it could be there some material. But repeatedly I'm saying that try to make it one class related to one class, one thing, and secondly, the things from his surroundings, from the surrounding of that child, from real world. That was all regarding what reading. And reading, conclusively, I am saying that we have discussed in very much detail in the beginning. Clear that it could be there through picture description. Here we were talking about what that from the very beginning. Clear. Then after that, when word formation is there, then sentence formation is there. There we already discussed reading. You can link that reading with that one. There we talked about what word frames. Then we talked about what sentence frames. Then we talked about what WH questions. Clear? That leads to what the reading with comprehension. Reading with understanding. Reading with understanding. Other than that, we have discussed all these activities. Now moving ahead, oral language. Oral language development. That the child is learning the letter A or the letter B or the letter C with sound A, B, K. But does it stop me from developing oral language? No. In written, he can just go for formation of letter A. But in oral development, I can develop many things in terms of vocabulary or in terms of small statements, small utterances, my communication with that child or the communication of that child with me. We divide it into once again two phases or two groups. First group is what? Enrichment of vocabulary. Enrichment of vocabulary. Whatever activities we have already discussed were related to what? Enrichment of vocabulary. And we said that in junior Montessori, or when the child is there of age 3, specifically we focus more on what? Vocabulary of objects, vocabulary of nouns. Then in senior and advanced specifically, we focus on what? Vocabulary of verbs and joining the vocabulary of noun with verbs, objects with their actions. So that is enrichment of vocabulary. And second one is what? Language training. When the child is getting maximum vocabulary, it's up to you. The one who is providing maximum vocabulary to children is considered to be the best Montessori directress. It's up to you that how are you planning all these different activities and arranging and actually conducting all these activities successfully to enrich the vocabulary. The target is not just to go for these activities. Clear? The target is enrichment of vocabulary. When that vocabulary is there, clear, rest of the things get easier. Language development gets easier. What are these different exercises? for enrichment of vocabulary chi. Objects of environment chi. Sensorial material. Are you noticing one thing, that a similar sort of things are being repeated? Classified cards chi. Then sorting objects chi, arranging objects chi, sequencing objects chi, finding objects chi. The director says uttering what certain sound, and the child will find out the object from those flashcards or from those cards. For example, if I am uttering what chi, that who will find out a lizard and an alligator for me chi. Am I clear? In the beginning phase, make it clear ji. These objects would be there without labels. Mention it somewhere. For example, in the age of 3 or 4, whether you are using cards or whether you are using these pictures on LED, these pictures will be there without labels. You will just utter the sound G, that which one of these is alligator, elephant, am I clear ji? Or which one of these are birds and which one of these are not birds ji? The child is supposed to find out the difference ji, or different objects ji. In the age of 3 and 4, or at least the first half of 4, you will go for the objects without labels. But from the second half of senior Montessori and in advanced Montessori, you will go for what chi? In senior Montessori, you will go for the objects with labels. And in advanced, you can just go for labels without pictures. Labels without pictures, because the child can read now, or should read now, must read now, must be able to read now. Are you getting my point, Ji? When I am going for this activity with the children of junior Montessori, I am using what? Pictures. Or senior Montessori, I am using what? Pictures. Then from the second half of senior Montessori, when you realize that the child, second half doesn't mean that it's a fixed line, make it clear that it's up to you. Or whenever you think that your children are able to read, then you can use these pictures, you can use these words without pictures. Just to make them practice reading or oral development, because you have already uttered that sound, alligator, alligator. Say it slow, alligator. And alligator is written there. The child will read and find out the card, or the child will read and select the picture. I'm focusing on your mode of activity. That is very important. Which mode you are adopting? Are you there available with all these cards? If not, minimum I said what? You can use what? LED. And here you can go for maximum variety. In cards we can be there limited. Or cards could be there with with a certain available fixed choice. Are you getting my point, ma'am Hifza? That if you are using cards for this activity, how many cards you can arrange? Maximum 50, 100. Got it? And usually what? 10, 15, 20. But on screen, and those 10, 15, 20 are same. Clear? But on screen you can go for what? Clear? A number of variety. Clear? With something new, more colorful. Clear? Then sensorial materials, classified cards. Then nomenclature cards, the same, geographical, biological. And then same in the age of 3 or 4, unlabeled, just pictures. And from the age of 4 or at least in 5, must labeled, or sometime even without a picture. Then vocabulary of social relations. As people are doing what? That value education. The words of grace and courtesy from EPL group. Grace and courtesy group. Thank you. Sorry. Yes. Please. No thank you. How to accept an offer. How to reject an offer. How to greet. How to sneeze. How to burp. Vocabulary for all these. This was all what? Enrichment of vocabulary activities. Then comes what? Language training. Language training. As we did that story of lion and mouse. Here you can go for what? Stories. Stories in two forms. Storytelling and story reading. Storytelling, the directors can narrate a story, or they can read it all together. And this reading could be there in form of different characters performed by different children using their dialogues. As we use readers, am I clear? When you are going for a certain reader, make the children read that story one by one, or utter those dialogues. Adapting to different characters of that story. We'll go for a complete separate session on this, at how to go for readers. At the moment I am shortly telling you in language development process, when we say that language training, specifically in oral development, that one is that story telling, another one is that story reading. The directors can herself read, or usually directors reads that story. For whom? For the children of junior Montessori and senior Montessori. But the children of advanced Montessori, they themselves will read, or their reading will be guided. The directress is there to help them out wherever they get stuck. I may repeat that for the children of junior Montessori aging 3 or senior Montessori aging 4, the directors will read the stories. But how, ji? Do mention clearly somewhere, ji, by raising WH questions. For example, I am reading a story, ji. Once there was a lion. I'll also try to act, ji. I'll change my voice. I'll not be monotonous. I'll try to utter the dialogues of that line in the voice of lion, ji. Not exactly, but at least I'll try to act as if I am a lion. I'll raise certain questions, ji. Who was there, ji? There was a lion. Clear? Can somebody tell me that? What does lion look like? What does the mane of that lion look like? Or hair of lion look like? Is it a pet animal or is it a wild animal? Is it ferocious or is it harmless? Does it kill other animals or humans or doesn't it? Am I clear, ji? Along with the story, I'll raise what? WH questions. And I'll try to get the answers from children one by one, from different. Trying to engage them all, not some specific. Am I clear, ji? This was what, ji? In both when I'm telling a story or when I'm reading a story. And in reading, try to go for that reading through children, but guide it, make it clear. In advanced Montessori, they can't go for it exactly all the time, but at least they can try. It depends upon their language development in junior Montessori and senior Montessori. Then, ji, rhymes, ji, different rhymes as you people usually do, everybody knows about it. But those rhymes must be there, ji, meaningful, ji. As you people experienced it there in circle time, ji. You had their rhymes for what? Language. Rhymes for what? Refresher. Rhyme for what? Concepts. Rhymes for what? Value education. Clear, ji? You all practically did that, ji. Then, ji, different dramas, ji. Clear? These could be, as I said that previously in that session, ji, the rhymes must be meaningful, objective oriented. So similarly, the drama could be there, ji, topic based, ji. It could be role play. It could be puppet show. It could be puppet show, ji, where different children are performing the roles of uttering the background sounds of different puppets. For example, the puppet of lion and puppet of mouse, the dialogue there, dialogue, ji, performed by two different children, ji. Then, ji, self-expression, ji, very important, ji. You can also call it discussion. What could be the topics of this self-expression activity or discussion activity, ji? It could be there related to what? News, ji. News around. But not complex news. not that level of political news or something. Am I clear? For example, what chi birthday news chi, some celebration news chi, some family event news chi, some school event news. That's why I always recommend you that there must be a bulletin board in every preschool chi, where news must be Ma'am Aisha, news must be pasted chi, and discussed. Am I clear ji? Bulletin board. And a certain specific time must be given for this discussion ji, in language class. Got it? And different children could be picked ji, for this task. Or news related to different children could be discussed with other children ji, with the same children or with some other children. And the news could be based upon what chi? Past, present and future chi. When you are going for discussion of past, obviously you are using past structure and the child is developing what? Past language structures. When you are talking about some current situation, automatically the child is developing what? Current chi. And don't forget that we are talking about what? Oral language development. When you are talking about some future upcoming event, for example, some upcoming holiday, some upcoming event, national event or international event. And this all is done through what chi? Questions, make it clear. Repeatedly I am saying that through what? Questions. And which questions chi? WH questions chi. What happened ji? When happened? Where happened? How happened? What, when, where, how? 5 W's. Then ji language gains ji. Language gains. For example, the question related to things. Questions related to things. You can divide them among groups. By developing a sense of cooperation, make it clear, not competition. As we discussed in very much detail in regular Montessori sessions, that among Montessori principles is what? One of the principles is that Montessori methodology is based upon what? Sense of cooperation, not sense of competition. Because conventionally sense of competition was there, but with certain very harmful effects, sometimes even discouraging, dismayed attitude, horrible results. We are living in 21st century where the children is with much more exposure than the past. So always focus sense of cooperation. Win-win situation must be there. Then action verbs like clap, stop, skip. You are creating a game, for example. Whenever I'm talking about some current situation, you will what? Clap. I'm talking about some past situation, you will jump, for example. Whenever I'm talking about some future situation, you will skip. It could be there, some cards, it could be there rope, moving on a rope. or it could be there in form of questions ji. For example ji, whatever action you can do, you will jump, and whatever action you can't do, you will what? Stay put. You will stay still. Am I clear ji? And all these activities ji will be done through what? WH questions. Ji, we were talking about what ji? That all these activities will be done through what? Questions ji. Clear? That don't go for that. Sometimes it happens that suppose I'm narrating a story. Clear? I keep narrating a story. I forget about asking the questions. Asking the question means that getting them involved. Clear? Getting them involved in what ji? That activity. Making them the part of that activity. Usually it happens that when a directors or when a teacher, even at junior school level, high school level, usually it happens that in language classrooms, specifically reading activity is considered to be very important. For that you can also consult that textbook adaptation. That video is also available on YouTube channel ji. That how to go for that text sheet. That what is the problem there when the teacher or director is going for what? That reading activity. That reading activity becomes boring for children. Why? Because they don't feel themselves the part of that story. Okay? Sometimes they guess the story. Sometimes they already know about the story. Okay? The questions are basically used as a tool to get them involved. And what are these yes-no questions? Usually that the questions starting with helping verb or modal auxiliaries or modal verbs. Clear? For example, is there? Clear? Are there? Clear? Does it so? Have you? Clear? Has it? Clear? Usually the questions begin with helping verb are considered to be what ji? Yes no question, because their answer can be there in simple one word yes or no. So to avoid these questions, go for what ji? WH questions. 5 W's ji. When, why, how, where. In the response to these questions, the children cannot go for the answers of only yes or no. They have to go for what she complete statements, and that is the requirement. That is the objective. We want them to develop what language now, in form of what? Complete utterances, complete sentences, not just what? Yes or no ji. After that ji, there comes, though we have already discussed all these things clear in a nutshell there in the beginning in 3 phases, but as I said that now we are dealing with them separately ji. That reading exercises, oral development ji. Now we are moving towards what ji? Writing exercises. Clear? Writing starting from 3 years ji, from junior Montessori. Basically we divide these activity into what ji? 2 major parts, and we can also call it 3 ji, including reinforcement. What are two major areas ji? Number 1 is what ji? Identification, and number 2 is what? Formation. And third one, as I said, that is basically for reinforcement. Certain activities are for the identification of that phoneme or grapheme, and certain activities are formation of or writing of that letter, and certain activities are for the reinforcement of that or practice of that ji. Among those ji, as you can see on screen ji, always we begin with what? Identification activities. I have just mentioned 2 here. You can make it 200. You can make it 2 dozens. There is no fixed line for that. But it must be a planned activity. When I am saying plan, I always go for certain questions. What activity is there? Why are you conducting that activity? What is the objective of that activity? What do you want to achieve out of it? And third one, above all, very important, is that how, mechanism of that activity. How will that activity be commenced? Involving how many children? Individual or in form of pairs or groups? That is very important, because usually it is observed that when certain activity is being conducted, some of the children are involved there who are directly participating in that, or whom do you want to participate. Clear? Rest of the children ji seem to be feeling bored. Clear? Or sometimes they get impartial, indifferent to that activity, feeling themselves are not the part of that. Clear? That is very dangerous. That leads to what? Losing interest initially, and consequently losing what? Concentration. And this loss of concentration is very dangerous. That damages IQ. As we discussed those 4 Qs: intelligence quotient, emotional quotient, social quotient, and adversity quotient in the main course of Montessori certificate in very much detail. So that among those, above all was what? Intelligence quotient. So while conducting these activities, if certain children are not involved, clear, consequently they lose what? IQ. If their IQ is low, that is just because of you. If it happens repeatedly, it leads to a what? Permanent loss of, or I must say that a severe loss to what? Concentration level. And that is what? Losing IQ or weakening IQ. So that how mechanism is very important. That how will you arrange it? That must be well planned. The number of children you are dealing with, how will you get them all involved with the same intensity, with same interest level? When I am saying that as a demand, as an objective same, though actually it can't be the same all the time. It's natural. Somewhere it would be excellent, somewhere it would be average, and somewhere it could be below average. But my objective while planning it, clear, while planning certain activity, my objective must be in form of what? Excellent. That excellent involvement, excellent conduction should be there. So be very careful. So in that, number one was what? Videos. As you people are given with what? The links of those videos, standard videos. Make it very clear that on YouTube, clear, or on Google, that videos are available, but certain videos are not authentic. Clear? Yesterday we were watching certain videos. What should I call it? I should not call it wrong. I should call it horrible. Clear? Horrible interpretation of certain language structures. It was wrong, absolutely wrong. It was not authentic. So follow those links, or follow those videos, clear, which were provided to you earlier. Those links. So the videos, in the very beginning, taking a start with what? Every letter and its sound. It could be there in that language slot, and along with that in circle time, as you people practice. Clear? That what do we do? Whatever letter is going on in this week, we go for the same video or reinforcement of the same letter in circle time of that week. Along with that, flashcards, as many as possible, just to introduce that letter along with sound. I'm repeatedly mentioning both the things, because it is observed that Sometime when we focus too much on sound on phones, we lose the grasp over what? Letter. And sometimes when we focus more on letters, we lose the grasp over sound. Clear? So this sound and letter both, and the relation between sound and letter is very important. So the first activity is what? Identification. Through videos, through flashcards. Am I clear? Second phase is what? Formation of that or writing of that. Usually it is observed that we directly starts from what? Notebooks or tracing sheets. I'm not objecting it, but that can lead to what? Boredom. Or that is against the principles of Montessori. What is that? That using certain material. That activities must be there, play not just through paper and pencil or paper or crayon. Play. Activities must be there using certain material. The first one is formation through rope. By using a rope, how to form a letter. And then we'll go for what? Practical exercise of that. Practical demonstration of that. That how will we make that letter clear from where to begin, where to stop, clear, and where to end. Specifically involving directions from left to right or from right to left, from top to bottom, clear, from bottom to top. That is very important. You must have seen even certain grown children, while writing, they form a letter in a very wrong way. I have no problem with that. As I said that, I believe in what the usage of modern technology. The world is moving towards keyboard. And we are still adhering to what this formation of that. Clear? But keeping in view the current system we are working in. There the child needs the speed of writing. Clear? The clarity of writing. When we say handwriting, clear, that basically is clear writing. Where the letter A may not get mixed up with E, clear, or it may not cause certain confusion to the reader. Whatever is written, it must be written clearly. And keeping in mind specifically our own exam system, the child is supposed to appear there. And when he is writing there and his writing is not good, his writing is not clear, that leaves a negative impact, resulting in what? Low grades. So Montessori directors is responsible for this. So the first activity is what? Using rope. Then ear, palm and back. As I said that, at the moment just mention the list. How to go for that ear, formation of letter A in ear on palm or on the back of some other child. We'll do it practically. At the moment just mention the list. That how will the child form letter A in ear or in palm or in back of that child. Clear, from where to begin, then go round and round. Clear, go up and up, down and down, little round. Clear, starting point, ending point. Then in sand tray. Sand tray. All this material is what? Sensorial. This is what? Sensorial. That sense of touch. Tactile sense is being involved. Using sand tray, the formation of the letter. That's becomes very interesting for children. If I'm directly taking them to the paper using pencil, they are in preschool. I'm supposed to maintain their interest level. Along with that, they're learning. Both the targets are there. Then using sand letters. For example, this is your sand tray. That when I'm using the fingers of child, clear, and he is forming what? Letter A. Clear, he is actually using what? Tactile sense. Clear, on a rough surface. Got it? That's fun for him. That is enjoyment for him. Okay, but along with that, I'm actually doing what? I'm going for the formation of activity of letter A. Along with that, I'm uttering repeatedly sound A. A, A, A. A, A, A. Am I clear, ji? The sound A with letter A. Both the things, ji. With sand letters, ji. For example, ji. For example, I'm holding this G sound with G. Got it, G? Clear? These sort of letters, G. Clear? That with a rough surface. With a rough surface. G. When the child is moving his fingers, clear, on that rough surface. G. Clear? Starting point, for example, from go round and round and round. Clear? Stop, go up and up, stop, go down and down, down, later down. In round of A, I move towards what? Right. Clear? And here I am moving towards what? Left. Clear? So mean to say that before starting all these activities, at first we have to use that rope to clear the directions. Using rope, at first we clarify what? Directions, G. Clear? Up. Direction of up, direction of down, direction of right, direction of left specifically. Clear? And even that when I'm saying go round and round, clear, specifically that round and round is from left or round and round from right. That is the basic difference between B and D. You must have observed that mostly children mix up B with D or D with B. Just because of what? Direction. Wrong direction. G. Using what? Then sand letters. G. Then using do. G. We'll practically do it. G. That how using flashcards or learning center. G. How will that do be used to form certain letter? Then G. For example, paint. G. Cutting, pasting. G. Then tracing. G. Clear? In that tracing specifically, G, that crayon, clear, is considered to be the quickest mode of developing grip. For a good grip, crayon, because crayon is bit rough, no? When using learning center, when on that you can see there that learning center, G, when the child is doing it using crayon, it will develop a firm grip, pencil grip, clear, pen grip, or whatever you call it that. And then G, reinforcement activity, G. It comes when, for example, when you have done with 6-7 letters, G. Clear? You have reached to letter, for example, G, G, G. Then you can arrange, rearrange, order, reorder, ascending order, descending order, missing letters, such type of activities. G. You have done all these activities there in regular course. G. We also demonstrate. G. It's a sample. It's a sample. Clear? These are few activities. For example, if these are 10, suppose, you can make 12 on your own. It's your creativity. There is no fixed line for that. But what is a fixed line? The target, the objective must be clear. Sometimes it happens that, for example, this paint activity, that I am using this paint activity here for the formation of letter A. That paint activity in art is something else. Am I clear, ji? Don't mix up that one with this one. Usually it is observed that paint is just there only for fun. Agreed that sometimes we use it only for fun. But here I am concerned with what? Formation of A. But even if I am using colors, coloring, formation of A, not as an artwork. That art is something else. Here we are talking about what? Formation of A using color, clear, in some what? Blank A, empty A. That the child is filling that empty A using dough or using paint or using crayon or using color. Clear? So the pattern must be properly followed. Clear? Though the child is left with certain liberty. Clear? But that liberty, as we discussed among the principles, that freedom is there, but with certain limitations. Am I clear, ji? So don't forget about those basic principles of Montessori methodology, ji. Among these activities, ji, certain which have been observed very fruitful, ji, are fixed, ji. Why? Because these are very helpful, ji. In quick development. In less time, you can achieve maximum results, ji. What are those, ji? Identification activities obviously are fixed, compulsory all the time. Then air palm back, sand trace, sand letters, learning center, and finally tracing. These are fixed. Other activities, for example, dough, paint, coloring, cutting, pasting. You can add those activities as a treat in different days or among different groups. For example, one group is busy with what? Dough. The other group could be there with cutting, pasting. The third group could be there with what? Rope activity. Another group could be there with what? Tracing activity on learning center. But for formation of each and every letter, whether that is letter of Urdu or whether that is letter of English or whether even that is what? Formation of numbers. For numbers, you can also use the same activity for formation of numbers. 1 to 9 or 0 to 9. You can use the same. Am I clear, ji? But repeatedly, I'm saying that to know about certain activity or to conduct certain activity is not important. How is that activity being conducted is important, is a real target. Clear? Getting each and every child fully involved. Clear? And here once again, you can follow that first principle of Montessori methodology. What is that? Observe the child. And along with that, that freedom. For example, a child is not taking interest in what? Your rope activity. Or that group is not taking interest. That group could be there, clear, with what? Paint activity. And another group that is not interested in what? Paint activity could be there involved in what? Cutting, pasting activity. If all of them, it depends upon your lot, the children you are dealing with. It also depends upon their mood. Make it very clear that it's not necessary. Once again, I am saying that this is not Holy Bible. Clear? That you are doing it all the time, ji. Clear? With the same routine, ji, with the same sequence, ji. If you are following the sequence, that is well and good. But when you feel that If all the children are taking interest in some activity more, then you should go for the repetition of the same activity, because the real target is to achieve that goal. And what is that target? Formation of that letter. Am I clear, ji? Then, as I said earlier, ji, diagraphs, you're using a what? Diagraphs, because at first you are dealing with what? Individual letters and individual sounds. From individual you have to move sometime to what, ji? Pairs of sound, ji. Can you see it on screen, ji? For example, ji, Q in quit. Then diphthong air, ji. A in what? Aim. Then E in what? See. O in what? Out. Oi in what? Toy. Am I clear, ji? In simple word, double sounds, ji. Formation of what? Or learning of what? Or developing what? Double sounds. This is done in what, ji? Senior Monthly. Along with these, you can also the same diagraphs as I discussed earlier, ji. Ch, ja, sh. Am I clear? Here you can call them what, ji? Double phones, ji. Double sounds, ji. And we are dealing with what, ji? Writing language. How to develop writing. It starts from what, ji? Single letter. Then moving ahead with what, ji? Double letters. After single and double letters, ji, we move ahead with what, ji? As we discussed in very much detail previously, ji. Word formation. Word formation. When we find that our children are well developed with individual sounds or double sounds, then we go for what, ji? Combination of those sounds to form words. Here it is formation of words. And here we use what? Word frames, which we discussed in second session in very much detail. Now can you link this with that one? Am I clear, ji? From individual sound we move towards what? Double sound. From that we move then what? Towards what, ji? Word formation. Now child is well aware about different sounds and letters, or relation between sound and letters. Now using that relation between sound and letter, we will make the child practice the formation of words. And we'll use what, ji? Word frames, ji, as we did previously. Then, ji, after word frames we move ahead with what, ji? Sentence frames. And it happens when, ji? In advanced monthly or in prep or in the third year of preschooling, ji, when the child is aging 5. Sentence frame we also discussed in very much detail, ji, in previous session. So now you are there with a complete package of what, ji? 3 writing phases. First phase sounds, individual and double sounds. Second phase what, ji? First phase is what, ji? Individual letter formation, then word formation, then sentence formation. And don't forget about that reading, ji. Those reading exercises. As I told you there that reading is directly linked with what? Writing. The way the child is reading, exactly the way he would be able to write it. If he has learnt independent writing or writing with understanding, he will be able to write what? Independently. Or he will be able to write with understanding. Then ji, certain other activities are also there ji, for writing ji, general activities. For example, sound games ji. Sound games with initial sound, with middle sound and with ending sound. The child, the directors will name different objects with sounds and the child will write it down, as we did there in reading. Now can you connect that chi? As I told you there, that all these are what? Interlinked, inseparable. You did the same activity there ji, but the purpose was what chi? That development of reading through listening. Through what? Listening. Though the child was writing there, but your objective was more on reading than on writing. Or primary objective was there what? Reading. Secondary was what? Writing. That's why I said that in third phase, there you will go for what chi? Only words without even images of objects. Here ji, purely you are going for what chi? Writing exercise. And what sort of vocabulary you will use ji? About which you know that children know. Children know about what? Sounds. You will not go for certain sounds which are not familiar to child. And if certain situation is there, you will use what? Phonic activity. You will utter that word by separating all the phones. Am I clear ji? For example, ba, thing, b, a, t, in. Got it? Suppose it's a new word for that child. You will name different, the directors will name different objects and children will write those words. Then ji, another activity ji, you can use movable alphabets there ji. Can I have those movable alphabets please ji? That the directors will announce a word ji, and children will find what ji? All the letters of those words ji. For example ji, if I'm uttering the word fast, clear? How will I go for it ji? T. Got it ji? The child will go for what ji? The child will find out what? The letter for f at first. Then the letter for Are you noticing that? Here he will automatically develop the difference between a and In alligator he developed what? A. In fast he is developing what? Am I clear ji? They also find it very interesting ji, this activity ji. Thank you. Then ji, Another activity ji, separating vowel and consonant sounds ji. Separating vowel and consonant sounds ji. The teacher can name some object ji, and after listening to that, children will separately write vowels, the list of vowel sounds in that word and the list of consonant sounds in that word in form of letters. In form of letters. Then specifically using movable alphabets, as you have seen now, you can go for certain other activities. For example, arranging letters. Arranging letters. You can go for what? Jumbled letters. You can misspell, or you can write a word on board with wrong spellings. The child will use movable alphabets to arrange the letters properly using sounds. Using sounds. For example, the same word I uttered what? Fast. But I am writing it on board with wrong spellings. After sound, instead of I'm placing what? Sound. Am I clear? I'm writing it there how? With t. And I'm uttering it what? Fast. Writing it what? Sat. But uttering it actually fast. Writing it wrongly, uttering it correctly. Clear? Repeatedly. The child will listen to that. Clear? And child will follow what here now ji? Sounds. By following those sounds, he will rearrange letters in correct order. Am I clear ji? Then building words as this puzzle that using movable alphabets, the child will develop what? Child will make words. You can give the task, arrange this activity that make 2 words or 3 words you know about your surroundings, like using these movable alphabets. Now the child will use his own word bank. To make those words. But don't make it too general. Try to be specific. Specific how ji? For example ji, that some objects around you in this room, some objects at home. Clear? Name some objects at home. Name some objects in garden. Got it ji? For example, tree, leaf, branch, stem. Got it ji? Then building phrases and sentences ji. Phrases just short utterances ji. I'm not technically talking about those difference between phrases and clauses exactly as we talked about at higher level ji. Just simply call it what making sentences ji. Here once again you can use what language frames. Language frames. There we use blanks there. No? Here you can write a blank frame on board and you can ask the child to fill that blank clear on that mat using what? Movable alphabets ji. Am I clear ji? For example, in some picture you are showing the child some picture ji, that in that picture Sam is blank a car. Sam is blank a car. So the child is supposed to fill that blank with what she driving. What? Driving or washing, whatever is there in that picture. So in his mind, though you have mentioned that frame on board, but in his mind he is making a complete sentence. He is writing a complete sentence. Then ji, building stories ji. Building stories using 5 W's ji. Using 5 W's. What happened? Where did it happen? When did it happen? Am I clear ji? Story is based upon happenings, na, past happenings. These were few ji. These were few writing activities. But make one thing clear, that you will focus on those ji, where we talked about what ji? Formation of letter, then formation of word through what ji? Word frames, and formation of sentences using sentence frames. Other than that ji, to maintain or develop their interest, you can go for such type of activities. I have mentioned few ji, you can go for dozens ji. It's up to you. It depends upon your time management ji, availability of time ji. Then ji, for writing you can also go for another very interesting activity, which I have observed that children take interest in too much ji. That is what ji? Draft book activity using inset. What is that inset ji? You must have seen that scale type of thing ji, where the letters are there, cut out letters or encarved letters, whatever you call ji. Grooved letters are there ji, or blank letters are there. The child uses that inset. Are you getting me ji? What is inset ji? That is a scale type of thing where all the letters are written but empty, innerly empty. Clear? Within that letter, the child moves his pencil or color and something is written on the page. It can be done how ji? For example ji, and it is basically for what ji? For word formation and sentence formation as well ji. That cut out a picture, paste it on your draft book ji or scrapbook and label it ji using inset. Using inset and different colors of your own choice. Another example ji, draw a family tree of your folks at home and label them ji using inset ji. For example, grandpa, grandma, father, mother, brother, sister, for example. Another example, ji. Find out or draw. Draw the pictures of, not all the time cutout, ji. Sometimes cutouts are not available. Draw the pictures of 3 of or 5 of your favorite animals and label them, ji. Using insert, ji. Draw your own picture, ji. And write 5 statements about you using insert, ji. And make it clear that whenever you are moving towards sentence, always give them language frame, ji. For example, I am, give them the frame of am. I am is name, ji. I am 5 years old, ji. Am I clear, ji? Or I have, I am, I have, I like, I dislike, 5 likes, 3 likes, 3 dislikes, ji. I have, I don't have, ji. I can, I cannot. Then few are these essentials, ji. Writing essentials, very important, ji. Their sitting posture above all. Mostly wrong sitting posture, ji, leads to a hump, damage to their backbone, ji. The placement of sheet, make it clear, very important, ji. That must be there on the angle of what, ji? I told you in that previous session, 45. What is that? What is natural posture, ji? Can you see this? This is what, ji? 45 angle, ji. Page must be there with neither too straight nor too turned. Clear? In between. 45 angle, ji. This is natural posture, ji. Got my point? Can you see my elbow, ji? This is what? 45. This is what? 90. This is wrong. Clear? This is what? Now 30, 20. This is also wrong. Which one is comfortable? 45, ji. Or natural? 45. Clear? So page must also be in the same position, ji. For example, my wrist, my arm is at 45, but the page is on what, ji? 90. That is wrong. A page is on 20 or 30. That is also wrong. Then, ji, pencil grip, ji. It must be natural, loose and comfortable. Natural pencil grip, ji. But make it clear that loose, neither too tight nor too loose. Average, ji. And you have to notice all these things from the very beginning, ji. In the beginning we don't observe, ji. Later on we try to change it, ji. It gets difficult. Then, ji, upper lower case, ji. Then punctuation marks, ji. And above all, script, ji. Whether you are going for cursive or Nelson. And Nelson is considered to be what, ji? Easier, ji. clearer as compared to what? Cursive. Am I clear ji? Cursive or joint writing or cursive writing, that is considered comparatively difficult ji, as you all people are doing here ji. Then ji there comes what? Creative writing ji, for advanced Montessori, aging 5. Here you can use what ji? Bubble chart ji, according to their level. Those who are watching this video ji, they can go for this bubble chart ji. A complete session is there ji on the channel with the title of Teaching Strategies Based Upon Preferred Learning Modes or Preferred Learning Styles. Teaching methodology or teaching strategies based upon preferred learning style. In that you can go for detail of that bubble chart. You all know very well ji, what is that bubble chart ji? Here you can place what ji? Basic language structure in the middle, for example ASMR, and with the bubbles of what? Objects. The structure of can and cannot, surrounded with the bubbles of what ji? Action words. Action words. Make these two on your notebooks ji. First one was what ji? ASMR with surrounding bubbles of what? Objects ji. Am I clear ji? And the second one is what ji? The middle bubble is with what ji? Can and cannot with surrounding bubbles are what? Action words ji. For example, fly, eat, drink, walk. I can fly, I can eat, I can walk, I can drink water, I cannot fly. Am I clear ji? Creative writing never means that the child is supposed to write on his own ji. Another, for example ji, myself ji. The middle bubble will be there with structures of what ji? Am and have. Surrounding bubbles ji. Boy or girl. Another one ji. Old ji. 5 years old ji. Then for have ji. Siblings ji. I have 2, 3, 4 siblings ji. Another bubble ji. Brothers or sisters ji. I have 2, 3, 4 brothers ji, or 1 sister ji, whatever the child is having ji. He'll make the sentences using this bubble chart. So I have combined both the language frame with data needed in the same bubble chart ji. This will be done where in ji? Advanced, as you people are doing here ji. Then ji writing a poem ji, haiku, that is a Japanese structure ji called. As a sample, what, where and when, as I said previously ji. You can use it for both story and for a poem. Then there comes what ji? Cultural work ji, as we discussed in very much detail in the beginning ji. and make it clear that culture starts from you. The communication of directress, facial expressions, body language, dressing, actions, reactions. How do you react when the child is doing some mischief? How do you react in a certain situation? How you dress up? Your facial expressions also lead to certain cultural development of child ji. Then ji, your surroundings ji, your classroom ji, is it clean or is it messed up? Your entrance, your environment, your softboards, arrangement of your material, your cupboards, your shelves, in and out. How are you receiving them? How are you seeing them off? Everything ji. Plays very important role in cultural development ji. The way you are communicating ji. Your voice pitch ji. Are you shrieking all the time or are you dealing them politely ji? Sometime even when softness is not required, are you still kind? Can you be kind without being soft sometime? As one of the principles ji, that distinguishing negative behavior by limiting choices. Can you recall? This is one of the major principles of Montessori methodology. In these moments, are you kind on one hand, and on the other hand, you are not soft? How are you responding to the questions of that child, demands of that child, complaints of that child? How is that child being treated by the gatekeeper, by the helping staff? And when we talk about all these things, don't you think that language is involved all the time? Are you getting my point? It's not only ABC. It also develops certain culture, then certain activities in language slot ji, value education ji. Are you going for some formality sort of activities, or are your activities well planned to develop the culture of that child? When you people go here, for example, that etiquettes, manners, value education, language is also involved there. Specifically that fourth group of EPLG, grace and courtesy group. Got it? That leads to what? Culture. Then ji art ji. It grooms inner self ji. Where there is no art, there is barrenness. Where there is no art, there is no life. Art is life. It gives life to that child. And it can best be integrated. It can best be integrated in language activities above all. Because in language activities, you must have seen the variety now. Nomenclature, classified objects, language games, word formation, sentence formation. When we talk about letter formation, paint activity is there or not? Coloring activity is there or not? Dough activity. Dough is like that sculpture, no? Sculpture, no? Got my point, Chi? So here is a list of some of those activities. Chi. The drawing, coloring, painting, certain activities using soap. How, Ji? Where you use plastic material and you thrust that thing in soap, and when you pull it out, clear, you get a shape of that thing. For example, that round, square, plaster of Paris. Plaster of Paris. That cheap or easily available plastic toys are available, where you cut those toys into half and fill those toys with what? Plaster of Paris, and tie them together. Later, then when you pull it out, you get what? That object, that shape made up of plaster of Paris. Then the child can color that on his own. Have you ever done it? I did that in childhood. I made the parrot. Okay, do check it at home at first. You'll enjoy that. You can go for amazing sort of things. Okay, that plastic toys, cut that toy into half and fill both halves with what? Plaster of Paris. Clear? When it is bit dry, na? Clear? Not completely dry, join it together and tie it with some thread or rope. Clear? After some time, when you're sure that it is completely dry, take off those two parts. You'll find a shape. Then color it. I love this activity myself. Then nature. Then that drawing through using leaves. Drawing through leaves. Another very interesting, I love that, using thread. That mix different colors or place different colors on color tray. Clear? Then that what should I dip that thread into different colors. Clear? Place it between two papers. Clear? And place those papers well tight. Then pull that thread out. You'll find a strange type of shape inside that. Now you can see many videos available there. These activities, easily manageable activities for children. It keeps them alive. I utter two statements with what should I call it? That absolute authenticity. Inna Allah jamilun wa yuhibbul jamal. Got my point? When the Creator is beautiful and He loves beauty, it means that beauty is in form of art. It is said beauty is truth. But here it is, we can find that in form of what? Art. If not in real word, Keats, that some of you might be having interest in literature. Keats mentioned it, that if you can't find beauty in real life now, find it in what? Art. In painting, You can paint a world like heaven, though you can't make it. Because we are dealing with humans, not angels. Then ji paperwork ji, cutting pasting ji, modeling ji, using clay. Using what? Clay. Now that dough is available. Using dough. Then ji designing ji. Then making borders ji. Making borders ji. These are few activities related to what ji? Art. And these can be done, make it clear that, above all in language classes. Clear? During that formation process of letters or something. Got it? For example, story ji. You're asking the children to write a story. Then at first draw that story. Draw the pictures of that story. Then write few sentences or one sentence for each picture. Am I clear ji? You can do it easily. Then ji, geography, history, biological sciences ji. Here ji, we are talking about physical geography ji and political geography. Physical area wise, political ages wise. In advanced Montessori specifically. What is that physical ji? The maximum entity. Even that when we talk about a classification, you can also use this classification. The biggest entity is what? World, globe, then continents, then countries. Clear? Then states or provinces. Clear? Then districts, then cities, towns, villages, streets. Got it, ji? You got a classification. This is also there in vocabulary, enrichment of vocabulary. Ji. Then political geography. Ji. The names of different leaders. Ji. Shortly, just with their ages. Ji. Then personal ji. They can develop their own personal timeline ji. Personal timeline ji. When they were at the age of 3. When they were at the age of 4. One way. What did they do in the morning? What did they do in the noon? What do they do in the afternoon, in the evening? On weekends ji. For example. Then calendar ji. Calendar development ji. What would they do in which month? When would they celebrate their own birthday? Birthdays of their siblings, birthdays of their parents. Calendar of their school events. School events. When would be their sports gala? When would be their splash day? When would be their some other festivity? Then ji, biological in what sense ji? Their surroundings ji. The difference between fruit plants and other plants ji. Am I clear ji? Fruit plants and other plants ji. Or different kinds of flowers around them, different kinds of trees around them. Collect the leaves of different plants around you, or collect the petals of different flowers around you and paste them on your scrapbook. label them. Clear? If they are in junior Montessori, don't label them, just paste them. In senior Montessori and advanced, senior, they can just what she label them ji. And in advanced she say something about them ji. Write few lines on them ji. For example, it is a flower. It is yellow. It is beautiful. It is fragrant. I hope that you would have grasped somewhat of idea. I've tried my level best to clarify this language development, because it is considered that language development is considered to be the most important, specifically in preschooling, along with sensorial development, because it contains many skills. And finally, as I said, that art is also part of language. Art is part of language, and art is life. Where there is no art, there is no life. Thank you all.